Hello, boys and girls. Do you know what a tall tale is? I'm going to read you about Paul Bunyan today. And tall tales are fictional stories. It's called Paul Bunyan Moves Out. Look at baby Paul Bunyan. Look how big he is. That's called a tall tale. Feeding Paul was always a problem. When he woke up, wailing from hunger, he would eat 6 dozen eggs. For each egg, he ate a piece of bacon. He ate 45 potatoes. By the time his ma finished feeding him breakfast, it was time for lunch. His ma needed all her wits to keep him fed. Neighbors would come by to see how the giant baby was faring. They tried to give his ma advice on caring for him. Meanwhile, Paul kept growing. When he was just a few months old, he rolled over in his sleep. He crushed 4 miles of trees and a small town. Luckily, the people all ran away before they got hurt. "This is dreadful," his ma exclaimed. "What can we do?" Things got worse when Paul started to crawl. He was still a baby and didn't have the wits to be careful. By this time, he weighed over 700 pounds. When he crawled, he started an earthquake. The people in the towns around Paul's home were not faring very well. "This is dreadful," they all said. "That baby must leave. This place is too small for him." Paul's parents understood why everyone was so upset, but they loved him too much to send him away. The neighbors had some more advice for Paul's parents. "Make a boat for him and put it in the sea. The waves will rock the boat like a cradle. Paul will be happy and we'll be safe." His parents listened to the advice. They made a gigantic boat for Paul. At first, all was well. Then Paul began to toss and turn in his sleep. The rocking of the boat sent giant waves crashing up on the beach. The Navy was called. It sailed out to tow Paul's cradle back to shore. When they got to shore, Paul woke up. He stepped out of his cradle and sank 4 ships. Wow. Things got no better as Paul grew up. Finally, the neighbors came to talk to his parents again. "We're sorry," they said, "but Paul has got to make his home somewhere else." His parents agreed, but where could he go? Paul's parents looked at maps. They found the place so far up north that no one had ever been there. "Paul," they said to him, "we'll take you there. Please carry us." Paul tucked his parents into his shirt pocket, and off they went. Paul's place. You see a label on top? It took Paul just 3 hours to walk to his new home. "Be very careful," his parents told him. "Don't step on a village." When the family got far enough to the north, Paul found a mountain. He scooped out enough earth to make a cave. With the earth he had scooped out, he made a new mountain. "Here, son," said his father. "I made these for you." He handed Paul a giant axe, and a giant fishing pole, and a giant knife. His parents sadly told Paul farewell. "We'll miss you, honey," his mom said. "But we don't want anyone to get hurt." "I understand," Paul said. "Farewell, Ma and Pa." Paul was sad, even though he knew having his own home was for the best. He cried and cried for a month. He cried so much that he made a new river. When he heard a flopping sound, he stopped crying and sat up. There were fish in the river. Paul got out his fishing rod and cast a line into the river. Soon he had dozens of fish piled up around him. Paul happily made a fire and cooked all the fish for dinner. This life will be all right after all, he said to himself. When Paul got tired of eating fish, he learned to hunt moose. Soon he started exploring. Of course, he knocked down many trees as he wandered around. Before too long, he became known as the greatest lumberjack of all time. Paul lived in the north for many years. Some say he lives there still. That's a tall tale. Fictional story, right? Everything seems so outlandish and wild. Here's another one. It's called Johnny Appleseed. And do you know anything about Johnny Appleseed? We're going to find out. There he is. Who was Johnny Appleseed? Was he just in stories? No. Johnny was a real person. His name was John Chapman. He planted apple trees, lots and lots of them. So people called him Johnny Appleseed. Johnny was young when our country was young. Back then, many people were moving west. There were no towns, no schools, not even many houses. And there were no apple trees, none at all. Johnny was going west too. He wanted to plant apple trees. He wanted to make the West a nicer place to live. So Johnny got a big bag. He filled it with apple seeds. Then he set out. Johnny walked for days and weeks, on and on. Soon his clothes were rags, his feet were bare, and what kind of hat did he wear? A cooking pot? That way he didn't have to carry it. That's silly. Johnny Appleseed wearing a cooking pot for a hat. Snow came. Did Johnny stop? No. He made snowshoes. Then he walked some more. Spring came. Johnny was out west now. He stopped by a river. He dug a hole. Inside he put an apple seed. Then he covered it with dirt. Someday an apple tree will stand here. Johnny set out again. He had lots more seeds to plant. Johnny walked by himself, but he was not alone. The animals were his friends. Most people were afraid of wild animals. They had guns to shoot them. But not Johnny. One day a big black bear saw Johnny go by. It did not hurt Johnny. Maybe the bear knew Johnny was a friend. The Indians were Johnny's friends too. They showed him how to find good food, berries, plants, and roots. Where did Johnny sleep? Under the stars. Johnny liked to lie on his back and look up. The wind blew softly. Owls hooted. Hoo, hoo. The stars winked down at him. Many years passed. Johnny planted apple trees everywhere. People started to call him Johnny Appleseed. One day he came back to where he had planted the first seed. It was a big tree now. A girl was swinging in it. That night, Johnny stayed with the girl's family. He told stories. Everybody liked Johnny. Stay with us, they said. Make a home here. But Johnny did not stay. I have work to do, he said. I am happy. The whole world is my home. More and more people came out west. Johnny planted more and more trees. In the spring, the trees bloomed with white flowers. In the fall, there were apples, red, round, ripe apples. People made apple pies and apple butter for their bread. Never heard of apple butter. And apple cider to drink. I've had that. It's delicious. And children had apple trees to climb. It was all thanks to Johnny Appleseed. Now we're going to pivot for a minute. We talked about some tall tales, which are fictional stories about outlandish people doing things that could not have been done before by a person. And we're going to switch up to a real quick nonfiction, which means it's a true story called Animal Homes. This is a quick read. As I was saying to you before, boys and girls, if you're an independent reading center and you finish a good book and Mr. Powell says there's still time, get into another one. Keep building your vocabulary. And look at this. Animals live in all kinds of homes. Some animals live underground. Some animals live high in the mountains. Others live in the tops of trees or deep in the water. Moles live in tunnels underground. The tunnels are called burrows. Moles make leaf beds to sleep on. They spend most of their lives in their burrows. Rabbits live underground too. They dig holes to make their homes. Their homes are called warrens. Rabbits put grass and leaves inside. Sometimes several rabbits live together in a warren. They're so cute. Eagles usually live in the mountains. They build their nest in tall trees. Baby eagles are safe up to the treetops. Every year, eagles add new branches to their old nests. Some nests get very big. It's a big bird. Here we go. Look how cute he is. Do you know the name of this animal? Koalas live in trees in Australia. They spend all their time in the trees. They get their food and water there. Koalas only come down when they have to move to another tree. Oh, he might win the cute award. Do you know what that's called? Beavers live in rivers, streams, or lakes. They cut down trees with their sharp front teeth. They use the trees to build their homes. Their homes are called lodges. Beavers enter them under the water. I did know about those secret openings. Many frogs live in ponds. They stay in the water most of the time. When the water is very cold, frogs go to the bottom of the pond. They cover themselves with the mud there to keep them warm. I didn't know that. Oh, what is this? We know him. Animals can live in other places too. Bears and bats live in caves. Foxes live in dens. Some animals even live in our homes. They are our pets. Animal homes. Another story you'll find in our classroom library. See you soon, boys and girls.